Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Wes, Weapon Throwing Fighter, and in today's episode, we're talking feats. Origin feats, background feats. Wait, those are your origin feats. General feats, and epic boons. Right, before we get into it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you like Warhammer, D&D, and/or other tabletop games. We're not going to be talking fighting style feats because I mentioned those in my Monster Hunter video. Alright, so we're going to get right into it. We're going to start with the origin feats, and the very first one is Bloodhound. This is going to give you not Tremor Sense and not Blind Sight, so you don't actually know where they are, but you just know something's in 10 feet of you, which can be really fun to mess with people, or mess with players. And we also have No Hiding. You gain advantage on Wisdom perception checks that rely on smell and hearing, not sight. You can get this from the Beast Hunter background if you want to actually start with it, or you can always, take origin feats as regular feats later on. Convincing Inquisitor you can get from the Inquisitor of the Faithful background. You can also get it from the Lapsed Inquisitor background as well. You don't have disadvantage when trying to influence a hostile creature. You have advantage if the creature's indifferent. Multiple paths lets you choose any ability score when making an intimidation or persuasion check, and okay, how do you use your constitution? Tell me how you use your constitution to make this check. The other part is Zealous Insight, but this is just going to give you advantage on initiative rolls against the creature you insight for a minute. Depending on the situation, we're getting to our next feat, Deathbound, and you can actually get this from the Executioner background. And what this feat is going to let you do is, it's going to give you advantage on death saves. But first you have to fail 2 death saves. I mean, there's other feats that just give you advantage on death saves. And, well, certain species that give you advantage on death saves. The other part is when you spend hit dice during a short rest, you can roll 2 and take the highest. Okay, Fortune of the Thaumaturge, which you get from the Scion of the Thaumaturge background. This is going to let you, whenever you proficiency bonus times per day, fail a d20 test. So any type of d20 test, you can expend a hit dice and add that to the roll. The second part of this, if you roll a 1 or the highest available number on your hit dice, d6, d8, d10, d12, you don't expend it. So on a 1, you don't expend it, or on whatever the max is for your hit dice, you don't expend it. So that's actually a really cool, oh, I can kind of do this all day feature somewhat if you just roll high or roll low. Free Swords Mercenary's Will comes from the Free Sword Mercenary background. This is going to give you the ability to, when somebody tries to push you, you can use your reaction to reduce how far you get pushed equal to your walking speed, which, I mean, I feel like most pushing features are like 10, 15 feet, and your walking speed is 30. So you're never going to get pushed more than your walking speed, honestly. I don't know any features that can do that. The other part of this is you're going to have advantage against things that would push you. All right, Insightful Collector. You can get this from the Agent of St. Augustine background. And what this is going to let you do is basically have Identify always prepared, but without actually being called Identify or being a spell. It's worded very similar to it. The other part of this is, well, you start with a magic item. You start with one common magic item that you have to talk to your DM with about. And so this kind of, unfortunately, I give all my players a common magic item at the start of the game. Resolution of the Syndicate, which you get from the Resolution of the Syndicate Smuggler background. This is, if you're into dealing damage, this is the strongest of the background features, background feats, and origin. This is strongest of the origin feats. Okay, so after you roll initiative, your first attack is going to deal an extra d4. At level 9, it's going to deal an extra 2d4. At level 16, it's going to do an extra 4d4. And it's going to give you 1 extra hit point every time you, when you take it, and then an extra hit point every time you level up after that. So it's like tough, but not as good as tough. Well, actually, the damage part of it makes it better than tough. But you don't get 2 extra hit points like you do in tough, you just gain 1. Next, we have the Survivor feat, and you can get this from a few different backgrounds, such as Beggar, Pioneer, or Released Thrall. You only require half the amount of food. You have advantage on intelligence checks when you take the study action. And when you finish a short rest, you can reduce exhaustion by 1. When you finish a long rest, you can reduce it by 2. I was just in a dungeon for like over a month in which we took 2 long rests. We did not eat at all. And that's because we barely track food. The only one who has to actually track what they eat for the most part is our vampire in the group. Other than that, don't really care about tracking food in most games. If your DM's like me or mine, who don't really care about tracking food, this is kind of a dud. But that's why you gain advantage on the study action and can reduce exhaustion as well, so it's not that much of a dud. Finally, for our origin feats, we have Triage Expert. You get that from the Physician background or the Pox Touched background, which once again just takes me right to 40k. Talking about 40k, I forgot to talk about the feat. So this first feature is going to let you roll an extra dice for the second feature. The second feature is just going to let you use a healer's kit, and when you use it on somebody, that creature can expend a hit dice. So they'll be able to roll 2 dice, take the highest, and technically only expend 1. It's literally healer, it just gives you the ability to choose the highest. There are also skilled, alert, and savage attacker available in this book. There's quite a few different feats that'll give you those, or backgrounds that'll give you those, and there's also magic initiate available. We are now going to move on to general feats. Black powder pistol expert. Okay, so you can shooting at long range. All right, you gain an ASI, we know that. So shooting at long range doesn't give you disadvantage. You can ignore the loading property of your pistols, and you immediately, when somebody moves within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to take a shot. Notably enough, when somebody's within 5 feet of you, you have disadvantage on ranged attacks. Next up, we have Expanded Grip, prerequisite Strength of 13, and level 4, which, I mean, they're general feats, so most have a prerequisite of level 4, and I say most because we're going to have one that later on that's a bit spicy. So yeah, you gain your ASI, and then you gain, when you have a versatile weapon, even in one hand, it counts as like if you're holding it in 2. And if anyone tries to make you drop your weapon, you can a DC 15 strength save to not drop your weapon, and you have advantage on that check. Hulking Figure is our next one. This one I actually had homebrewed in D&D Beyond for a long time now. And it's going to, well, you need a prerequisite strength of 13. Gain an ability score increase, but that's not why we're here. We're here for the other parts, which are once per turn when you hit with an unarmed strike, you deal an extra d4 damage. It's going to let you add your strength modifier to intimidation, persuasion, and performance checks. And you're also going to gain powerful, which is powerful build. You count as 1 size larger when it comes to your carrying capacity, you know, lifting, dragging, that whole stuff. Our next feat is Iron Gut, which has a prerequisite Constitution 13. I love the fact that it's a Constitution requirement. You have advantage against and ending the poison condition. You have advantage on survival checks when foraging for food specifically. So once per short or long rest, you can use a bonus action to expend a hit die, just 1 die, and add your Constitution and you heal, which is like, it's cool mid-combat, just like a little, but I feel like this could have been, you know, proficiency bonus times per day. You can do this. Next up, we have Lightning Caster, prerequisite having spell casting or pack magic slot. So you can't get this from like your species. If your species gives you spells, you can't get this from, like, if you have a feat that gives you free spells like Magic Initiate, this won't work either. Until I'm told otherwise, I'm 100% that if you're playing in a full Grim Hollow setting, you don't have access to the player's handbook. So you can't pair this with Warcaster, as great as it is. But if you're at like my table, or if your DM's like me, and just like, yeah, you can just use this content, then this pairs really well with Warcaster, because besides increasing your spellcasting modifier, the first part of it is dual target. You cast a cantrip, you can use a bonus action to cast that same cantrip again. If you're a Booming Blade using Arcane Trickster or Sanguine Thief, you can Booming Blade and then use your bonus action to Booming Blade. But this is why it says this pairs really well with Warcaster, because when you cast a spell using a reaction, so like your Warcaster reactive casting feature, this doesn't expend that spell slot. And you can use this once per long rest. Medicine of the Morbius Nocturne. This actually requires, the prerequisite for this is having the Triage Expert Origin feat. Okay, this is going to let you use three hit dice instead of one for that blood and bone ability you gain from Triage Expert. Now instead of one hit dice, it's three. You can also use 3 hit dice to end one of the following conditions: blinded, deafened, paralyzed, poisoned, or stunned. And there's a little part here about grievous wounds, which only apply if you guys play with grievous wounds or not. Then it matters. If it doesn't, if you guys don't, then it don't. Nimble Physique is another feat that I homebrewed already. It's got a prerequisite of 13, dex prerequisite of 13, and it's going to increase your ASI. Then you're also going to gain, while you aren't wearing armor or a shield, you can take the dodge action as a bonus action. While you're grappled or restrained, you don't have disadvantage on attack rolls against the person who's grappling you. And attacks against you don't have advantage. The next one is Sangomatic Initiate, which is just Magic Initiate. However, it's going to let you choose a Sangomancy spell for which a level you have spell slots for. So, it doesn't say you have the ability to change it out though. Then I would really wait till you're at higher level, because most feats, in fact, the only feats I know that give you second level spell slots are the Adept of the Robes feats, and the only feat that gives you a third level spell slot is the Outlands Envoy, I believe. Enough talking about other feats. This one's gonna let you choose a Sangomancy spell for which a level per slot that which you can cast. And you can cast that once per day without a spell slot and once with it. So you get a pool of 2d12s that you can use in place of your own hit dice. I mean, some of these spells require like 5 hit dice, so you can expend 3 of yours and like 2 of these. Not bad, not bad. Our next one is Shadow Steel Adept. Same thing, prerequisite wise, spell slots or pack magic slots, spell casting ability. And what this is going to let you do, it's going to increase your ability score. You always have Shadow Steel Curses prepared, and you can cast them without expending a spell slot. All of the Shadow Steel Curses prepared. I mean, these curses do take a long time to cast, and like have, stipulations to them. But that's just a lot of free extra spells. And if your Shadow Steel focus is a weapon, let's say a quarterstaff, then it becomes a +1. Specifically to attack and damage rolls with the weapon, not your spellcasting attack rolls though. Then we have Shadow Steel Master, prerequisite level 8, and the Shadow Steel Adept feature. This is also going to give you ASI. When you're holding your focus and you cast a spell that targets one or more creatures, you can choose to add a d4 of damage to one creature, whether they succeed or failed the saving throw. Other part of this is your +1 weapon now becomes a +2 weapon, and once per turn when you hit a creature, you can do an extra 2d8 necrotic damage. Alright, we have Syndicate Spy, and that requires a Syndicate Smuggler background or feature. So while holding Thieves' Tools, you can spend 10 minutes and craft a key for any lock. Then you're also going to gain proficiency with the Disguise Kit and can spend 10 minutes to make a costume or disguise. You can gain proficiency with a Forgery Kit, and you aren't limited to 10 words when it comes to trying to mimic someone's handwriting. Okay, and then when you take the hide action against a creature that isn't hostile, you don't need to be heavily obscured, you can just be lightly obscured. And on top of that, you can choose to make that as a charisma or dexterity check instead. For a rogue or bard, this is pretty good. Assuming you don't already have some of these things, but it's still really good. Next we have Thrown Weapon Master, and this is gonna prerequisite Dex or Strength 13, and it's gonna increase your Dex or Strength by 1. Then it's also gonna give you, so when you attack with a simple ranged weapon that has the thrown property, as a bonus action you can make 2 more attacks with simple thrown range weapons. or simple range weapons that have the thrown property. Quick Hands is going to let you retrieve or stow a simple ranged weapon, but you can kind of just do this when you take the attack action, equip or unequip a weapon. So if you're using your bonus action to do this, you're not using your bonus action to throw in 2 additional weapons. Then your weapons have the returning property. Property, not mastery, because, well, see advanced weapon training feat in my Monster Hunter to figure out what that is. Then we have Witch Hunter, which, mentions the Inquisition, but doesn't require you to be, to have anything related, feats related to the Inquisition. This is going to give you an ability score increase like the others. It's going to give you the benefit of Sanctuary. Without calling it Sanctuary, you have to make a Wisdom save against the spellcaster's spell save DC, and if you succeed, they have to sue someone else. So it's like reverse Sanctuary, but still Sanctuary, if that makes any sense. Then when you hit a spellcaster with a melee or unarmed strike, you reduce their speed by 15 feet. That's a pretty good reduction rate until the start of your next turn. And then you have advantage against Shadow Steel curses and all spells that have a duration of 10 minutes or more than 10 minutes. But you don't have advantage on saving throws against a fireball. All right, I'm gonna talk about 2 feats that appeared in the Layers of Arathis book or pack because they're not here in the player's guide. And if you look on the pre-order for the campaign guide on D&D Beyond, it doesn't say anything about feats. So we're just going to go over these 2 crafting feats real quick before getting on to the epic boons. All right, Adroit Crafter. It's going to let you half the crafting time it takes to craft, and when you fail a crafting check, you don't lose any material. Fearful Crafter. This is going to give you advantage on crafting checks. This is going to give advantage to anyone you help craft. And it's also, if you fail at crafting something, that time you spent crafting, you would have spent crafting, is actually wasted at all. Once again, these are legacy feats, but if you're until the campaign guide comes out, we're not going to know how crafting rules work in Grim Hollow. Let's get on to the epic boons. All of the epic boons are going to give you an ASI, and majority of them are related to a transformation. Transformations aren't part of the base game. They're an optional thing in Grim Hollow also. They're not incorporated into D&D Beyond yet. Hopefully they become optional features soon. Fingers crossed on that one. But yeah, so your transformations all have negative. The epic boons for them get rid of the negative and gives you an extra feature of that transformation, because transformations you typically choose, you want this or that, and then you take a negative. So this is going to say no more negatives, and you can get an extra this or that. Now let's get on to the actual epic boons though, because there's 2 of them. Boon of Magic Resistance. If you fail a saving throw against a spell, you can just choose to succeed, and you can do this once per long rest. And then we have Boon of Perfect Flight. It's going to give you a 40-foot fly speed. You're also going to have hover as well. So if you're in the sky and somebody tries to knock you prone, you actually don't fall prone, or you get hit unconscious. You just hover. You don't actually fall. Then the other part is, well, Graceful Fall. If you fall more than 5 feet, it's Feather Fall. You don't choose when to activate your fly. You always fly. So doesn't that mean you just can't if a trapdoor opens up from underneath you, you're hovering. You're like, oh, well, I can fly, so I'm just gonna hover here instead of using my Feather Fall ability, which doesn't actually work on others. I don't understand the wording of it, but it's there. You got it. Good for you. Anyway, that's it for me. My name's been Wes. Where's the fun? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Warhammer, D&D, and other tabletop games. See ya.